The night's long shadows have dragged you through time and across worlds to kneel here before my worm-eaten throne. I offer you now this one chance to walk away with your lives and your souls intact. Please, tell me our story.
There's something magical about the act of sitting down at a table or huddling close to a fire to break bread and share a meal with other people. The people we eat with become a part of our lives, a part of us. They become our family. And families aren't perfect. They fight. They resent each other. They even hate each other. They have a lifetime of baggage, good and bad. But they still come together and they still break bread and they share their stories. I'm thankful for a great many things in my life. I'm thankful for my family. And by family, I mean the people that I choose to share meals with, to laugh with, to love. The people that I tell stories with. And I'm thankful for Billy and for Greg, for Tia and Allison and Kiana, the amazing people that I get to tell a story with tonight. And I'm very thankful for all of you watching and supporting us. This story is your story too. Thanksgiving's a time for people to remember what's most important to them, to give a voice to all of the good things in their lives. But it's not a happy time, not for everybody. Suffering doesn't take a holiday. Right now, true evil is out there, slithering and hungry. It's across the street from where we live, in the secret hearts of our neighbors. It's in tall, high-rise buildings where human lives are cheap, bought and sold so that powerful men can stay powerful men. It's in the hearts of kings and priests, the ones that hold our world in their small, greedy hands. Evil is out there. Evil is real. And we can fight it. We can even defeat it. But we have to do it together. When we share our stories, we can slay dragons. Now, tell me if you've heard this story. A knight of the crown, a minotaur slave fighter, a warrior priestess of the sun god Syrian, a black-robed wizard, an assassin on a quest for redemption, revenge. 5 flawed strangers pulled through time by dark magic. To survive, they came together and fought a fierce red dragon, corrupted by shadow, a beast with breath of fire and ash, a monster with molten blood. These strangers were all in pain, hurting in different ways. They were survivors of brutality, grief, betrayal. But they became companions in the face of certain death. And in our last episode, we learned something very, very important about them. They are powerful. Together, they are a force to be reckoned with. Now, right now, a light rain gives way to a downpour. Storm clouds roll across a black night sky, and somewhere in a skeletal forest, our companions stand in a circle around the very same dragon they slew together. Acidic smoke rises from the wounds of the dead beast. Molten blood still spills forth, but is beginning to cool, to harden, to calcify. Several trees in the area are still burning despite the storm. But for the first time, our companions stand there, looking each other in the eyes, all 5 of them together.
At this point, unfortunately, Rook is still raging. So as the dragon's lying on the ground, everyone locks eyes, except for him, who's dead set on this beast. And he leaps forward onto the carcass and starts smashing his skull into it and ripping the scales off of it piece by piece and smashing his face and frothing at the mouth and tearing the things that he can tear. There's so much torsion in every ounce of his fiber, and he's not letting go. There's no peace.
Roll me an athletics check and roll me a constitution saving throw. You are able to tear off several scales, especially where there's already an open wound. And they break away, and even more of that hot blood spills out of the beast. It continues to cool, but it's not cool yet. And your hands and your head are burning from the close contact. Ragone will take 7 fire damage. But you're able to do as you try.
I have some plot armor that I'd like to use for this. And so it may sear my flesh away, but I feel nothing. Like the pain doesn't sink in. So where it where the acid, that fiery acid sizzles the flesh, it just kind of immediately hardens over. And there's just like fresh blood dripping, slowly trickling down his forearms, across his face.
I watch the scales being ripped off with more than a passing interest.
I call across the scene to the armored knight on the other side of the dragon. Sir Knight, your companion is wounding himself.
He's making himself better. Allow him to finish.
As he answers, I'm walking toward him, wiping the the detritus of battle off of my blade and taking stock of my wounds. And as I approach, you dropped your sword.
Thank you, milady.
Or did you drop it?
As
It
you
looked as
say.
though perhaps it was thrown.
In the heat of battle, who is to say what is thrown and what is dropped? But here lies a dragon. By your hand, milady.
Either way, foolhardy or vain, neither makes a dependable leader or an ally. I turn to the rest. I am Sabrina Sunashal. I am a priestess of Sirion on a mission from the High Priest himself of great importance. I'll be taking charge here.
As you wish.
Rukon still ripping, pounding, working his way towards the skull of the dragon, oblivious to all of this conversation. He finds a soft spot, lifts up the horn of the dragon, and takes his hand and plunges it into the eye and rips out the eyeball.
How close do I think I can get to the Minotaur without being directly in his peripheral vision?
So he's on top of the dragon. He's climbed up on top of this.
Okay.
It's
Are
about the
you
size of a
ripping the
sword.
scales and throwing them down?
Yeah, so my interest is in havoc. So I'm not collecting the things that I'm ripping off.
That's good because I would not have the strength to get the scales off myself. As I bow to our new leader, I will slowly, one step at a time, begin approaching the dragon, taking my spell book out and opening it and flipping through some pages, studying the dragon and wondering what could have caused this type of shadow corruption, but every now and then bending over, picking up a scale, inspecting it, see if it's whole, put it away. I'd also like to empty my water skin entirely and collect as much of the dragon's blood as I can.
So the dragon's blood is calcifying, it's hardening.
Then I
So
won't dump out my water skin. I will take some of the calcified blood and put
you
it
can
in.
ship it off pretty easily, yeah. Roll me an Arcana check.
18.
You're convinced that whatever dark magic corrupted this creature, you're not sure if it was born that way or if it became that way, but you don't feel that it is the same source of magic that brought you here.
That was my next question. Or if it has somehow been bathed in the Lake of Sounds or anything of the like. It's its own individual shadow corruption. Interesting.
You need a lot of time to study to try to figure out more about the origin, but you can tell that there's a definite difference between the two sources. And meanwhile, at this point, Rookon, you stop taking damage because the blood cools and hardens. And so at this point, your rage begins to subside.
So his fingers are caught in the eyeball of this dragon. And then like his eyes slowly start to flutter where they were like a once intense sun of energy. Now the eyelids slowly start to flicker, and he grabs on to the horn of the dragon as he falls backwards, bracing himself with a foot on the opposite side. His breath starts to catch up, his chest heaving, and then his eyes open again, and they're different. And he looks around, and he sees the dragon carcass. What just happened?
All clear, Rook on, of Clan Algarock. It's all clear.
He looks at the eyeball in his hand, shakes his hand down to the ground, and the eyeball slumps to the ground. What have I missed? Who are these new people?
All in good time. All in good time.
He walks over. Now, though Sir Reardon's back remains straight, he is beat to shit. He has got 4 hit points mechanically. He is mud and blood covered. And he has been in a nonstop fight for 4 episodes. But he will walk over to Averin because he saw her take a tremendous amount of damage from the moment they met through the battle with the dragon, where she fought the dragon at the front line, and he comes forward.
Milady, do you feel as well as I look?
Averin kind of like looks him up and down. Maybe a little better. Also,
Well
you
met.
don't have to use my lady with me. That just feels really weird.
He will place Absolution back into the back scabbard, and he will offer forearm and hand to Averin.
Well met, comrade. Sir Reardon Pathwarden.
There's a moment where she just looks at you, looks at the hand.
This is a look that Sir Reardon has experienced quite a bit.
But you are a knight, and no matter what you say to Sir Reardon, he will always view you as a lady. Knight of the Crown?
You are correct, milady.
She bows slightly.
And which crown is that, Sir Reardon?
The oath and the measure. I follow honor.
This has been a unifying experience. To all of you, I am in your debt. I can see that some of us are not doing so well. Perhaps we should take time, sit down, break some bread, figure out how we got here and why.
I will say that despite the storm and the rain, the fire that was just a few trees at once is beginning to spread.
This does not look like a promising place to sit down and rest. Let us find shelter.
If we do not deal with the fire, we may not have any shelter to go to. This could spread quickly. We should deal with this. Say, looking up at the rain, almost pleading it to rain harder. Where the fuck are we? Question as player.
Did Averin ever take Sir Reardon's hand, by the way?
He'll slowly
Nope.
lower it.
To answer your question as a player, maybe we'll find out sometime.
The fire will take care of itself. Let the gods handle the things of the gods. Rook, is it?
Yes. That is what they call me. That is what I'm called. Who might you be?
That's right, you weren't here a moment ago. My name is Sabrina Sunashal. I am a priestess of the god Sirion, and I've taken charge of this band.
Taken charge like a commander?
If you will, or a pastor, perhaps. Either way, you're right. We should find some type of shelter. I can't imagine that this creature is the only one of its kind in this place.
I should hope not. Let's move.
So you are surrounded by forest on all sides. It is very dark. Darker still because all that you can see above are storm clouds. You can't really tell what the position of the stars or the moon is currently from where you're at. But the woods stretch out with no road, just the wild in all directions. To your south is where the fire is starting to spread. Anyone who wants to can roll me a nature check. So, Honoria and Sabrina, you both believe, and Sir Reardon as well, you all believe that the rain is slowing the spread of the fire, but it's not going to be enough to put it out. It's likely that it's going to spread in every direction. If you wanted to move away from the fire, the safest place to start heading before it gets bad would be north.
May I please make a religion check to know the details of Sirion? I know as a player, but...
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And this is an interesting thing because Sirion is an obscure god, not even one of the more popular gods in his time, but especially in your time, 357 years after the cataclysm. He's, unless you've specifically studied the old gods, you wouldn't know anything other than that he has a familiar name. With a bit of study, you might know that he was some sort of fire god long vanished from the world now.
I do have proficiency in religion.
So I would say then in that case you would be aware that he used to be a fire god, but it was one of the first names that kind of became obscured and lost in time once the change happened.
Thus her lack of interest in putting out the fire.
Just a quick moment. How large is the fire at this point?
It's not too large yet. It's just that it's already spreading.
And how many squares?
Let's say it started off 2 trees, and now it is 4 trees. 2 more trees have caught as it's beginning to spread along the ground and burn from overhead. Branches that touch other branches, falling and catching.
Rook looks at the group and is like, before we depart for a moment, I must do something. I'd like to keep tabs on what I do when I'm not here. So he walks over to the head of the dragon, opens up the maw, clenches his fist, knocks out a tooth, grabs the tooth, and slips it in his loincloth.
There was one that Sir Reardon had already loosened with a thrusting blow of his sword, and that's the one that's easiest to pull out. One of the front incisors, or the front fangs.
Player question. Was I able to successfully grab any full scales?
Yeah, you were able to get a couple of the scales that he'd been able to tear off and toss down. So we'll say 2.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm also going to mark down a little bit of dragon calcification for lack of a better term.
Rukon, perhaps it would be best if you led the way. I believe our knight is more wounded than he is willing to admit.
I suppose I can do that. Everybody, if you have things, pick them up. Let's pick a direction and go.
To the north would appear to be the best direction. It will take us away from the spread of the fire. Perhaps we can find some high ground, get some sense of where we are.
I really have no knowledge to test against that, so let us depart north. Any objections?
No need to ask. I've given direction. Lead the way.
Ragon raises an eyebrow, packs his things, turns north, assuming he knows where north is, and walks headstrong in that direction, confidently.
I will take up the rear of the group.
Sir Reardon would walk a few paces behind Ragon.
Averin is towards the side, on the outskirts, keeping her distance.
As I see Averin, I begin to edge toward her. My child, you are not well.
Thank you for noticing.
I've seen you before. Do you remember me?
Yes.
What do you know of how we came to be in this place?
Not a lot. I have guesses.
Perhaps when we've found a place to shelter, you can share your guesses with the rest of us.
Are you asking or are you demanding?
I'm suggesting, my child.
Quickens her pace.
I would like for, as we travel through these dark woods and the storm continues to rain down relentlessly, you can see the light of the fire behind you. No matter how quickly you walk, the glow never quite leaves your view, at least not yet. As you're looking for somewhere to hold up to camp, and Rookon is leading. Rookon, what are you looking for? How are you going about finding a safe place?
There's no method. He's walking north until he gazes and maybe finds a cave.
All right.
An open field with depending on the types of trees, there are like soft pine needles on the ground. But he's got his shield up and no weapon drawn, and just looking.
Does anyone have the proficiency in survival?
I do.
I would like everybody to make me a perception ability check, except for Averin. I'll allow you to do survival instead.
I'm proficient in survival as well.
Then you can also choose to do survival if you'd like.
My perception is way better.
Yeah, god damn it. Yeah.
Honoria, you notice As you're passing through the woods, the trail that you're on sort of winds around a rise in the ground, a hill that's covered with thick bushes and trees that is hard to pass through. So you start to move around it, but then you spot something of interest just a few hundred yards off. It's through the maw of fang-like stalactites and stalagmites. You see a hidden entrance in the side of the hill, the height of a man and the width of 2 men.
Leader. Priestess.
Yes, child?
Do you see what I see?
And Sabrina, you see it.
Ah, yes. Well done. Sorry, I don't know your name.
My name is Honoria. I have no title.
What a very interesting name. Well done, Honoria. Friends, Honoria has found us a place to shelter. Rukon, would you like to check it out for us?
Suppose. Rolls his shoulder, cracks his neck, and heads off in the direction.
I shall go with you, Rukon. 4 eyes are always better than 2.
Do as you wish, knight.
Are we moving with any source of light as we move away from the fire into the darker woods? Have you guys just been wandering in the dark?
That was going to be my next question to the party. With the fire raging so beautifully behind us, I feel that taking a chance upon light would not mark us for any enemies. Do you agree?
I do. And I draw my scimitar. And very quietly, almost below my breath, by the light of Sirion. And it begins to glow with a yellow light.
Bria, make me an Arcana check. It glows with a yellow light.
Your god favors you, or goddess. I look forward to learning more, as someone who is a bit of a scholar myself.
I'm no scholar, child, but I look forward to telling you more.
I've always found that those that follow the way of their gods are scholars in their own rights. You may not have books, but you carry the words of your God in your heart. Do you not?
Well said. Well said indeed. Perhaps I've misjudged you, Honoria.
I look over to Sir Reardon. I get that a lot. I look back. I am from a strange place, and we are in a strange land, and dark magic is here. We may not have been likely friends outside of this, but I feel a friendship being forged in the flames.
Rukon is waiting expectantly. Are we done discussing things that don't exist anymore or do not matter? The next step is finding shelter.
Then perhaps you should check out the cave as I instructed, Rukon. were not you and our friend the knight going to do so?
Sure would help if we had some of that light you have. Would you
Do
care
you
to
have
assist?
something that you might give me for just a moment? A weapon? I can give you my magical light.
Who is that directed to?
Either Sir Reardon or Rukon. You don't carry a shield, do you? Either of you. No, wait, you've...
I have a shield.
All right, I will walk up to your shield and Shirak. Touch it, and from your shield, light will glow. Pale white light.
Well,
Much thanks, Lady Ronia, Honoria, whatever.
So you have enough light now to see a little bit more around you. And this is for Rookon and Averin. Roll me another survival check.
Oh, as soon as the lights are on, by the way, Averin has gone to the edge of it. She doesn't need light to see. She's fine. 22.
So Averin's the one who sees this as Rookon and Sir Reardon begin to approach the cave. Are you headed in?
correct.
Yes.
Averin, you see several sets of footprints in the mud. They go off in one direction and come back in another. They crisscross. They're, with a 22, I'll tell you, small footprints. They look too small to be a human's, but they are humanoid. Could be a child.
Yeah, Averin doesn't associate children in forests with great memories, so it's just kind of, she kind of scans. Should head in soon. We're probably not alone out here.
Averin, roll me a perception check.
$16.
We move back to Reardon and Rookon as they step into the cave. And what you see within is a small cave, maybe only 30 feet deep. Much higher than the entrance, but still only 10 feet tall. Its stony floor is littered with tiny animal droppings, and there is some evidence of what might have once been a makeshift fire pit in the center of the cave, but it doesn't look like anyone has used it in quite some time.
Riordan, I'm going to go in further. Would you mind relaying the layabouts of this cave to the rest of the group?
As you wish, my friend. He will turn and leave.
Rukon's going to delve 5 to 10 feet further into the cave and get a great glimpse of everything on the inside, see if he can decipher any markings, any sort of tracking, any sort of recently lain tracks, like how old the fire pit was.
Roll me a survival check. You can tell that this fire pit probably hasn't been used in months. It's not particularly well built, just from loose stones that have been piled up around each other. The ashes in the side have mostly blown away. As you hold the shield up, the light gleaming off of it from the spell, you're able to shine it up towards the ceiling. And as you look towards the ceiling, several small figures fall down from the ceiling straight towards your head.
Okay. He's going to, with whatever action he has left, back up to the front of the cave.
The fist-sized rodents flying around your head follow you into the cave, flapping their membranous wings into your face, and then they fly out of the cave and off into the night. You are alone in the cave, no noticeable markings. It doesn't look like this was a long-term dwelling place for anyone. No tunnels that you can see that lead deeper into it. It just seems like perhaps, like you now, someone in the past has used it as a temporary place to spend the night.
He's visibly flustered by all these flying rodents that just came at him, so he makes a half frightened, half frustrated noise as he tries to bat them all away with his shield. Walks into the cave after they leave, and he realizes they're not a threat. Sets his shield down by the fireplace and tries to rearrange the stones in a more suitable way to yield a fire pit.
You're able to do so. You know how to start a fire. You don't have any of the materials to start a fire yet, but you're able to arrange the fire pit. So meanwhile, we move back outside of the cave.
Miladies, Rookon has said that he has found a fire pit and shelter. And apparently some bats. After you.
I will wait until everyone has entered the cave and go in last, taking one last look at the raging fire behind me.
You can't tell if it's getting smaller or if it's staying the same, but you can still see the orange glow off in the distance.
If I look up to the rain and the clouds, there is no break. It is a dark, dark cloud. Is there any thunder or lightning, or does it look like it would be close to that? I'm not exactly a survival skilled, but...
You haven't seen any lightning flashes. You haven't heard the crack of thunder. It's just a steady rain. It's not even the sort of storm that would create a flood situation. It's more like a consistent heavy rain.
All right.
And you are very wet. You're all soaked through at this point.
I'm going to go inside then.
Is anyone else doing anything before you head inside?
No, heading straight in.
I'm just, again, kind of looking at the tracks, narrowing my eyes, and then going inside.
Once everyone is in, Sir Reardon will bring up the rear.
You all enter into the cave. It's dry. It's a little raised because it's set into the hills, so there's no water flooding down into the base of the floor. It's cold, but a good relief from the long walk you've had. And it's at this point that you all realize that you don't yet have the materials to start a fire. And you're all feeling pretty hungry at this point as well. But you are dry for the moment.
Looks like a fire will be the first order of business.
What of the larger fire that we were running from?
Was there... Oh, go ahead.
The consuming, the one spreading through the forest. If we stay in the cave, surely it cannot harm us physically, but it will. The smoke will enter the cave and choke us out if we stay here for too long.
We won't be staying for too long.
I require time to regather my magical energies. If we can find something to light a fire within here, I could use my magic.
Sir Reardon will pull himself off the wall where he was leaning and look at Sabrina.
With your permission, I shall find some kindling and firewood, some fuel in which to light a fire.
Why don't I accompany you, Sir Knight? As Rook said, two eyes are two better than one here in this case, I think, don't you?
Yes, as Rook said.
I said that? I have a very poor memory.
So the plan is for... Go on.
I was just going to say he was going to walk out of the cave.
And I follow.
Well, if they're going to get fire, we will need some food. I'm rather starving.
As those two leave the cave, I take out some rations from my bag and share with the party. Give you each what would be essentially a brick of dried meat, enough for one day's rations. I do not have much more of this. I suggest you make that last as long as you can.
Why would you give me this? You don't even know me.
Yes, but I saw what you did to that dragon. And you will need to be fighting fit. And you cannot do so if you atrophy.
Raises an eyebrow, takes the dried meat, and starts eating it.
Does Averin also take the meat?
She had her own rations because she was on a city mission before, and she will pull out her own.
I nod.
What are Averin's rations like?
It's basic. What looks like to be some sort of crackers and protein of some form. It's just unwraps it.
Do either of you wear any markings of deities on yourself?
Nope.
No symbols, no tattoos, no markings of any kind of guild or allegiance?
I have markings. They're scars, and you can make of them what you will.
Okay.
While you share wet, soaked through bricks of meat and crackers, move to outside the cave and Sir Reardon and Sabrina.
Sir Reardon says nothing. He simply goes looking under evergreens for dried needles, anything to start something that would be dry in the rain. He's also looking for standing dead that would be partially under, or anything that would be obscured, something dry. He's started fires before.
I'm following along and lending my light to aid in the search. I was harsh earlier, Sir Knight. You fought bravely.
As you say, a fight is a fight. We've won. There are only two alternatives.
Is that how you see the world then? Black and white? Win or lose?
Am I being tested? Are you a teacher?
I've been called teacher.
Not by me.
I like you, Reardon.
He goes back to looking for elements of the fire.
Go
Inside.
ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead and roll me survival checks.
$13.
15.
The two of you working together, it takes you a little while to find enough suitable dry wood, but you're able to do so, and you think it's enough to carried by the both of you back to the cave. Could at least get through most of the night with a hot fire.
Reardon says nothing, and when he realizes they have enough fuel, he returns or begins to walk towards the cave, stops, looks at Sabrina, nods towards the cave, and waits for her indication that it is time to return.
Yes, I think this is enough. Shall we go back?
As you say.
Before they return, I do have one prudent question I would like to ask as we are chewing on our different food substances. I am not as well studied as I claim to be. Perhaps the two of you could shed some light on this Syrian for me.
Why would you claim to be something that you are not?
Because there are two sides to a coin, and until you know what side lands right side up, then two different faces are sometimes required for dealing with different people.
Clever.
I feel it would be prudent to learn of our new leader's religion, and I do take interest in it, genuinely. That's a bold-faced lie. I don't give a fuck about it.
Rookone, sorry, continue.
I'm not a man of religion. I do not believe that gods hold sway over the choices of the mortals. We choose our own destiny. The gods are dead.
Averin, roll me a religion check. You've heard of Syrian and know him to be a god of fire, creation, invention, something along those lines. But you don't really know much more than that. You're familiar with it as a fairly established and respected religion in the world, but you don't have a lot of direct relation or experience with it.
Averin's not a religious person. Just kind of shrugs. My god represents a whole bunch of things like most gods do. I think you're better off asking our proclaimed leader.
Corner smile up on Honoria's face creeps on. I find that those that follow the ways of the gods are often blind to their god's own failures. Thank you. And I will pick a spot in the cave and put my back to the wall, open up my spell book, turn it to the back page, make a few notes about what I've just heard, and then begin going into arcane recovery and studying, attempting to get some of my spell slots back for the next hour.
As they return, the rain outside begins to grow lighter, but the wind picks up, and now you can hear it howling through the teeth of the cave, those stalagmites and stalactites whistling as they whip around the shelter that you found yourselves in. And Sir Reardon and Sabrina, as you return, you find them eating bricks of unknown meat and crackers, all kind of separated and doing their own thing.
Sir Reardon will make a fire.
I won't make you do a roll for that. You, a military man, you have all the materials you need. You're able to start a fire.
Sabria positions herself near the entrance and settles back in against the wall and looks around and sort of takes stock of this this little flock that she somehow collected.
I am completely enwrapped in my studies. I feel myself on the brink of some new power, some new spell is just eluding my lips, and I have my book in front of me and I'm making arcane gestures, and I see nothing more than a few feet in front of me.
It's quiet, Sabria. There's a disconnect here. You are all very different people from very different walks of life. There's a lot of unanswered questions. Each of you have experienced strange, disturbing things that maybe have made you question things about yourself, what you believe in. You've definitely all been put through the ringer. And right now, you have 5 individuals sitting in a cave. And the unity you had when you were fighting the dragon is gone. Even with the fire's warmth, it's cold here. You're hungry. And it's quiet.
Technical question. Do we have enough in rations to feed us, or would there be additional foodstuffs required for our current predicament?
I'll say you guys have enough rations to get you through the night. You're just very hungry right now, and it's not very good food. It's rations, and it's particularly wet. But yeah, you have enough to get you through tonight.
I would have offered a brick of meat to the both of you coming in, Sabria and Riordan. As I had said to the others, perhaps do not fill yourself. I do not have much more of this.
Bless you, child.
Perhaps you will bless me with the tales of your deity. I understand that they are god of fire and a god of mischief.
It's not unusual, Honoria, for those who are not of the faith to misunderstand Sirion. I will be very happy to share more with you. But first, I think perhaps we should rest. We're all weary, we're wounded, and now turning back toward the group. And I think some rest would be in order. We should post a guard, though. Do you agree, Sir Knight?
As you say.
Perhaps you might have some idea of how would be best to do that. Your martial skills and experience could be of great use to us here. What would you recommend?
I shall take the first watch. We will see how the night progresses. I will keep an eye on the fire. And then, I've usually found that there's an order to these things in smaller groups. I will awaken one of you, and you may take my position when time calls.
Very well, then. I would ask that I be allowed the last watch so that I can be awake when dawn finally comes.
As you say, you shall be well rested.
I'll take the middle. I don't sleep much anyways.
Nor do I, comrade.
Honor never sleeps, or so I've heard, Sir Knight.
I require
say.
a full night's sleep in order to retain my magical energies. I am not gifted by the gods, nor blessed in skill of sword and shield.
Yet you have a power that none of us possess, at least to my understanding, and you prove to be quite formidable against the dragon. Your rest is paramount, milady.
And at that point, Honoria will take her hopefully now dry cloak and make as much of a bed as she can, but she's pretty used to not having decent accommodations, we'll call it, from the background that she grew up in. And she quickly falls asleep.
So a couple of things. Does Averin volunteer to also take a watch?
You can watch with me. There are already 3 watches of 4 hours apiece. 3. I could use a set of good eyes. I've gotten older.
Very well. You'll notice that she hasn't taken her hood off, even while being inside. And even as she kind of walks to kind of join you, she definitely keeping away a distance and never really turning her back on anybody.
At this point, you've all taken a short rest just by stopping, eating, being around the fire, warming yourselves. Besides Averin and Reardon taking first watch, Rookone and Sabrina, do you immediately go to sleep?
Rookone goes into the corner, towards the front of the cave. He tries to find a recluse. With his back against the wall, sets his shield in front of him, and sets his legs on either side of the shield, and lays one arm over his shield and rests his head on the shield, and is either spinning in thought or sleeping.
Sabrina gets as close to the fire as she can and wraps herself in her scarves. She's spent cold nights before, but most of her cold nights are desert cold. She's trying hard not to show it, but for those that are looking closely, she's shivering and uncomfortable. But she falls asleep quickly.
And Reardon, Averin, you would probably notice if you looked back that it's Sabrina who has the hardest time falling asleep. That some of that confidence that she had shown before gives way to this uncomfortable shivering, this cold. But soon, all 3 of them are asleep, and it's just the 2 of you. How are you keeping watch?
Reardon would stay as close to the edge of the water line as he can, allowing the light of the campfire to stay at his back because he was not lying. He is older. His eyes are weaker. So he needs to kind of shield himself from as much of the natural light of the campfire as he can, as he would keep a watch sheltered from the outside if possible, if there's any type of natural shrubbery around the outside, and keeping as dry as he can.
And Averin?
Kind of along the same edge that Verdon's in, maybe a little further into the cave, back up against the wall, looking out.
The night begins to pass, and it's quiet. There's the sounds of normal animal nightlife. Very slowly, that orange glow in the distance fades. That fire that you were worried might have spread seems to have been snuffed by the storm, or elsewise you can't see it for another reason now. The rain does, after about another hour, clear, and the clouds part. Averin, are you able to see the sky from where you are, or are you too far in the cave?
I see a bit of it, not the full sky.
So you can see a little bit of the stars. It's still clouds passing through the night sky, and the smoke from the fire earlier. Can't see much, but Sir Reardon, you see the moons. Solinare and Lunatare, the white moon and the red moon. And you also see Nutari, the black moon, a moon that you have never seen before.
Do you see that?
You have to be more specific.
The dark moon.
Kind of stand up and walk closer to the entrance.
You can see it now too. And just like with Sir Reardon, you've never seen Nutari before. You've only heard of it.
Huh. No, you're not going crazy. Good night.
I didn't think I was. An ill omen, though.
What omens are not ill?
I've known a few.
Well, we're in a different place.
He would finally pull his eyes from the black moon and cast almost a side eye at Averin. We do not have to like one another. Though I respect your prowess in battle, it was brave and admirable. I understand that my order is off-putting to some. I am sorry if you have ever met with had misgivings or an experience of ill repute with someone that wore my armor. Bad apples.
Well, I don't have any personal givings. Just caution.
Then you are wise. Someday I would like to shake your hand. Perhaps someday you will shake mine. Until then, I guess we shall stare at this new moon together.
She'll look at him. Name's Averin, by the way. So I don't have to keep calling me a lady or comrade, just... Name is fine.
Understood, Lady Averin.
He sits back down, back up against the wall, just kind of Right, making progress.
Averin, roll me a history check. You don't really know very much about the knights. They're pretty obscure in Istar. You know that the primary knight order in Istar is the Knight of the Divine Hammer. Those knights serve the king priest himself and are purported to be cruel and basically think of the Inquisition. Anyone who commits a sin, and if it's publicly outed, they could potentially be grabbed from their homes, especially if they're followers of a bad religion, the wrong religion, and punished for it.
Yeah, there's a reason why knights set her on edge. Just kind of, again, kind of look him over. And in Averin's brain, the threat category has gone down maybe a little bit.
Do you spend any of the rest of the time of the watch in conversation or doing anything in particular?
Averin won't instigate any conversation, but she'll respond if Raiden says anything. But in the meantime, she's either looking out, just keeping an eye out on the trees, any strange small creatures that shouldn't be in the woods.
You can each roll me perception checks. For Sir Reardon, it'll be a disadvantage.
Even at disadvantage, it is still a 17 for Sir Reardon.
Oh no, that's Averin who got the 7, who got an 18. Sir Reardon got a 4.
Ah, you see, I have disadvantage, and my eyes are bad. I apologize.
So, Sir Reardon, you can't really tell. You're staring out into the dark, and beyond, 40 yards, it's just a wall of indecipherable shadows. Averin, you watch and you keep a wary guard, and a second hour passes, and a third hour passes, and then a fourth hour passes, and you see nothing. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Shall we take to blanket, Lady Averin?
Yeah, sure, well, should get some rest. And she takes her hand off her dagger.
Sir Reardon would go over and he would wake up Rookone at the foot of Rookone. He's nowhere near his arms. He's nowhere near his head. He would grab him, kind of lightly shake him around the foot and be back enough to watch for any swinging limbs.
He wakes up. He looks at Jordan inquisitively. What? Is it my turn?
Your turn, my friend.
Thought as much. He pushes against the cave wall, balances against the shield, stands up, stretches, and walks towards the front of the cave.
being a knight of many campaigns, he will take the warm spot left by the large minotaur and think twice of it, and then motion toward Lady Averin to share, as Rookone is massive, and they could probably both take a bit of the heat left by the space that he had formerly occupied.
I'm all right. Thanks.
No thanks required. And he would go to sleep.
You would hear tiny whimpers from Honoria, and she does not sleep easily. She tosses and turns almost every few moments, and it's a wonder that she doesn't wake herself up.
If Averin's eyes, if her ears caught Honoria's sounds and her eyes met Reardon's, he would simply say, "All power has a price." And he would close his eyes and go to sleep.
She's like, what? Okay. She'll just prop herself up against one of the walls and just slide down and kind of puts her head in her knees. She's sleeping, sitting up.
Then we just have Rookone. Rookone, you move to the mouth of the cave, your body having to kind of shift around a little bit to get between stalagmites and stalactites. Your frame is much larger than the others. How well does Rookone see out into the night?
At an average level, with no sort of spectacular vision of the night.
Roll me a perception check at disadvantage.
Yeah.
You notice what they had noticed before, that as you look up into now a mostly clear night sky, there are 3 moons, not 2, that you can see. You can see the black moon, Utari. You know what it is, but you've never seen it yourself. At this point in the night, as the moons have continued to rise into the sky, it's not Nutari that's the brightest, it's there. It is Solinari that shines brighter than the other 2.
He takes a knee, places his shield in front of him, and rests both his arms on his round shield as he looks up into the sky and wonders, what causes the moons to glow differently? From a very logical perspective, we have the warmth of the sun. It reflects on us during the day. What do these moons do to reflect on us at night? That little bit of curiosity is what's going to spiral his thoughts into wherever they may go.
You stand there, kneeling there, staring at the moons, wondering what makes them, what influence they have over your life, if any. There's no answer. There never is. 1 hour passes. It's quiet. There's no signs of the fire in the distance. 2 hours pass. Nothing. 3 hours pass. Roll me a perception check. At disadvantage.
That's what that is. Yeah.
You think you hear the sound of a distant howl, a wolf, maybe far off. Nothing out of the ordinary for this type of woodland.
Can I, with my skill in survival, can I see if anything's different about the past few hours from at this point.
Sure, yeah. You don't hear as many animals nearby, as many of the normal night critters that sort of become background noise when you're not listening for them. You don't hear them now.
His ears perk up. He steps back, pulls his shield back, puts it on his arm, slowly steps back into the cave, and starts slapping the rock near Riordan, where I used to be resting.
Riordan, that's enough to wake you up, and you can both immediately roll me perception checks.
21.
Not a 21.
Rookon, you think you hear another one of those distant howls, the sound of a lonely wolf. Riordan, as you come to, this minotaur hovering over you, slapping this stone near you, you hear a sound, but you think it's something else. You think it sounds like the deep yelp of a hound.
Sounds like a dog.
It wasn't the dog I'm concerned about. The normal forest chatter. It has disappeared. Everything alive has scattered, except for that howl. Sometimes you must look into the dark space and see what isn't there.
As you say. What do you suggest, my friend?
If you keep watch with me for a couple of hours, I will do my best to convince the others to rest a little longer so you get your full amount. But for now, we must be at full watch.
How long's it been, Don?
7 hours.
I had 3.
That's right. Nobody's had a long rest yet.
Okay. I shall keep watch with you, my friend.
I can't really keep up a candid demeanor with everyone else yet, but looks can be deceiving. So can I. I'm a very convincing individual.
I stand convinced.
So instead of kneeling now, he approaches the front of the cave. He's standing with his hand on his shield. Oh, go ahead.
The fire started to die down now too. It's getting a little colder in there. You could stoke it if you want, but it's been a while since anyone's tended to it.
How much firewood do we have left?
You have enough to get it going pretty good again if you'd like.
Let me put more wood on the fire. I'll be back shortly. So I go into the cave and
I shall take watch.
And he will move out towards the edge where he had held prior position.
You can roll me another perception check at disadvantage. Not much has changed.
Not much has changed with my rolls either.
You can feel the heat of the fire as it gets blazing, and you can see the glow extend. Didn't reach the mouth of the cave before when the fire was dying, but now it does, and it spills out through those stalagmites, those stalactites, through that hidden opening in the cave. But you don't see anything.
knowing that from the little experience that Riordan has with Rook, he will go ahead and pull out Absolution, but it would just be to clean Absolution should Rook look, as he is just keeping it out and taking care of the blade, but he has it out.
Rook once the fire is started, do you rejoin him at the mouth of the cave?
Yes.
As you reach the mouth of the cave, it's then that you hear the sounds of what cannot be a wolf, a soul wolf, cannot be a hound, not a soul hound, but several hounds, deep bellowing sounds, and they are calling out into the night. You can see them now because of the glow of the cave, and they can see you. And you see 3 large yellow-furred beasts rushing towards you from the nearby tree line. I'm suspecting that both of you have had a little bit of experience in military, so go ahead and roll me. Let's call it either your choice of nature or history.
Strong 10.
Rookone, you've seen these hounds before. They've been bought and held by slavers, used in their personal armies. These are a northern Salamnic warhound. These are very, very vicious creatures with a nasty reputation. But they are bred to do what they do. And right now we have 3 of them charging you, barking out into the night. And you have a moment here to act.
Rukon kind of cracks a sly grin in the corner of his mouth, looks over at Riordan and goes, I see no need to wake the others.
Our benevolent leader said that she didn't require her sleep.
Then let us see what we are made of. It is a great day to die.
No, my friend. It is a good night. And he pulls Absolution out and readies himself.
And then Rukon pulls out his scimitar as well, brandishing a shield.
All right, roll me. Go ahead.
He's pulling out his personal scimitar, not his the scimitar he has found.
Not the one that has that used to belong to Husgrodov.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go ahead and roll me initiative, both of you. These hounds are almost upon you now, and you can see the glint of the firelight from the cave in their dark eyes. All 3 of them charge you. The first 2 at Sir Riordan, the third at Rookone. All right, so I've got a 13 and a 9 versus Riordan, and a 16 versus Rookone.
16 is a miss.
You are able to fend off. I assumed it was a miss for the night.
Oh, yes.
You're able to fend off the gnashing teeth of the beasts. They are strong, very strong. As a matter of fact, they almost knock you over with just the force of their rush. And they're held at bay for a moment, and it's then that 6 arrows come out of the darkness from the tree line. First 3 at Sir Riordan, and the second 3 at Rookone. Riordan, there's a 20, a critical hit versus Rookone. So most of the arrows whiz by you, breaking against the cave wall, the rock, but Reardon, you will take 1 arrow for 6 piercing damage, and Rookone, you will take 1 arrow for 9 piercing damage.
All right, so using his plot armor, Rookone
Doesn't have any more.
I don't have 2 left.
You do not. Yeah, Rookone is out of plot armor.
Okay. Then he will.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Are you sure some didn't just happen right now?
I'm not sure. All right.
Yes, someone's just donated by Pope plot armor for Rookone. We do now get 12 plot armor because we're 6
You do,
level,
yes.
or
At
14.
level 6, you get 6 instead, or 12 instead of. You basically get 2 times whatever level you are.
So how much damage was coming in?
9 and
9.
6 for Reardon.
Okay.
Using
So-
plot armor, Reardon will strike the arrow that was coming for his chest out of the air with absolution and swipe it down because plot armor.
Rookone will see the arrow coming at him full force and raise his shield, and the arrow will twang against his wooden round shield, and he'll break it off against the side of the cave, so there's only a nub of an arrow left.
Fantastic. It is now your turn. Let's see. We had Reardon and then Rookone.
Would Reardon recognize these as bred Salamnic warhounds at this point?
At this close, and now that they're right up in your face, you've definitely encountered these before. As a matter of fact, maybe even, on your side of the war.
All right, he's going to attack. But at the same time that he's attacking, he is going to say out into the distance towards the direction of the arrows. I have known these dogs and bred these dogs. Lord Pathwarden, at your service. As he is going to attack the closest one. 22.
That is a hit.
11 slashing. Let me see, did I roll any ones? Nope. And how's it looking?
You cut it into its side and it's bleeding, but it's not slowing down. This is a tough, tough dog.
Very, very well. Then I will attack again. 13.
A 13 is also a hit.
That would be a 15 damage. 26 to one of these puppies.
And as you bring the blade down again, you catch it in the neck, and a little bit of spray of blood comes up, and you can hear a gurgle, a whimper out of the dog's mouth, but it's still gnashing its teeth at you. And it's at that point that you hear something in the shadows in the tree line from where the arrows came. Somebody grumbled, maybe somebody else. You heard him, he said he's a lord, get him.
In that case, I would like to action surge and attack again. And this time I would like to I would like to use one of my actions to direct an attack from my friend with advantage as I use my what's that called? The Commander Strike. So I'm going to point to one of the dogs. I'll use my action and my bonus to have Rookone get a shot in at the wounded dog, and I will launch another attack at one of the fresh dog. 15.
That'll be a hit.
10 on a fresh dog, and Rookone, you get to use your reaction to
Attack with advantage on one of these bad boys.
Ooh, advantage. All right, let me roll another one then.
That was a damage roll too. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. You hit the second time. But Rookon's not currently raging, so it's 4
Right.
slashing damage.
Yeah, 4 slashing.
That wounded hound is still up. It's barely pushing forward, but it doesn't stop gnashing. Even when it should be on the ground, even when you should have put it out of its misery, it's still gnashing. And it's at this point, is that the end of Reardon's turn?
It is the end of Reardon's turn.
That Rookon, it's your turn.
All right, do I have, if I'm attacking the dog that's immediately in front of Riord, do I have advantage?
You have not, you guys are both in front of it, so you're not flanking it at the moment.
Okay. Can I shift to the point where my back is towards the other dogs and I am flanking this dog?
If you want to, they'll all get opportunity attacks on you, but you can do that.
Yeah, no, changed my mind. Going to, shit. Yeah, I'll do a normal attack on it.
That's a hit. You do not know how, but it is still up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I will use, I will shift away. I'll use my movement to move 1 square away from this dog. And I'm going to drop my scimitar where it stands and get my free hand ready.
All right. As you pull away 5 feet, you're hearing the barking, the angry, vicious sound from the 2 beasts that are mostly well. The sound from the injured hound. It sounds like you've only heard it once in your life, Rookon. It reminds you of the sound of the last moments of some of your slave brothers and sisters' lives when they had been tortured so much by Vlog that they were barely minotaurs anymore. Oh yeah.
That affects me, and my breathing tightens up and my eyes get wide, and then I pound my shield onto the ground and I grab the dirt, and then things start to, my muscles tense and things start to change.
Meanwhile, inside the cave, at this point, you've heard the barking. They're close enough to the mouth of the cave, almost right up on it. It stirs. Oh, let's have you all make perception checks for me. That seems appropriate. It's Averin that startles up first. You hear the sounds, perhaps being a light sleeper, not sleeping well tonight. And you can see them at the mouth of the cave struggling with something. You can hear the barking of hounds.
Stand up and just immediately, second nature, just pull out the rapier and moved out towards the entrance.
All right. If you're joining, then go ahead and give me an initiative check. Do you do anything to wake the others, or are you just moving out yourself?
I'm going to, not very gently, just kind of, while I'm passing, just nudge with my foot to Sabrina.
Sabrina, you're awoken by Averin.
Sabrina, I shake my head. What is it?
Averin's already walking past her.
I hear the sounds of combat from the mouth of the cave. Honoria!
I'm assuming that's loud enough to awaken me.
Yeah, at this
Nice.
point, there's enough commotion going on that you're all awake now.
Hmm.
And I'm moving rapidly toward the mouth of the cave as well. Both scimitars out.
As they move out, I will count to 10 before I move outside of the cave and attempt to stealth out the entrance of it.
All right. So, Honoria, roll me a stealth check. Everyone, roll me initiative.
It's a 3.
And then what was Honoria's initiative?
Initiative after that will be 10 total.
Perfect.
Because of the stealthy feat, I can move 10 feet out into the open.
Without being seen.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So the three of you creep out, and what you see most immediately is a very wounded hound and two other hounds struggling with Rookone and Sir Reardon. It's at this point, right as you're reaching the mouth of that cave, that those hounds attack again. Two of them on Reardon, one of them on Rookone. Reardon, the best will be a 24, Rookone, a 20.
It's Rookone.
And that will be, I require you both to make me a strength saving throw, and that's 6 piercing damage or 11 piercing damage, rather.
19 strength saving throw.
Okay.
Did one of those miss? What were the total rolls? You said 18 and 14
Yeah.
would be.
One of them was I think, an 8. So yeah, one of them missed you.
The one that missed, he wants to grand riposte, and he wants to spin away from it and come back in with an attack. And that would, I'm assuming, maybe the one that he already hit.
Yeah, this is the wounded one.
Okay, that's a critical that I just hit. It's a natural 20. I'm going to spend 2 inspiration, and I would like to do 70 damage to that one.
To the almost dead one.
No. The fresh one. The almost dead one's on Rickon.
I've got you. All right. Yeah. So absolutely. How are you doing this? 2 inspiration, critical. Please give me all of the details.
As the one would come in and grab his arm, and it happens to be on his sword arm that carries the banded, almost glittering rope that's tied around his forearm, he rips it back savagely, as if trying to protect not his flesh but the rope itself. He spins the blade around, brings it down, and cleaves one of these hounds from tip to tail. And as it splits, not in a perfect carve, he splits it in an awkward, hacking, emotional carve. Had he wished it, and had he been in better mind, it would have been perfect.
There's a sound that escapes the dog's mouth, the hound's mouth, for but a second, but so quick and so vicious is this action that sound is choked with the fluids of the dog, and you obliterate this creature, so much so that the other dog, the one that does bite you for 11 piercing damage, after it bites you and begins to shake your leg, trying to get through your armor, trying to pull you to the ground, it suddenly pulls off. It sees what you've done, and it cowers back for a moment. Meanwhile, Rookone, you are bit into the thigh by the very wounded dog, the one that shouldn't even still be standing, and somehow, despite how hurt it is, it's still strong, and it pulls you to the ground. It knocks you prone, and it has your thigh in its powerful jaws.
How much damage?
11 piercing.
Is that halved?
You're not raging yet.
Okay. All right.
And at that as Rookon goes down, 6 more arrows come out of the tree line. 3 for Reardon, 3 for Rookon.
Excuse me, fair DM. Oh, no, wait, Grand Post is my reaction. I apologize for interrupting. I was going to Sentinel, but I can't.
I think one of them's going to hit Reardon right at 20 is enough. And does an 18 hit Rookon?
Sure does.
6 piercing damage. Again, only one of the volley of arrows hits each of you. 6 piercing damage to each of you. However, you still don't see shapes emerge. You only hear the whistling of the arrows as they come at you and then break against your armor, your body, or the nearby stone. It's at this point that the others catch up to the party. Averin, Honoria, you're up next. Averin first.
So I just saw these arrows just break off.
You do see the
fall
arrows.
into
That's
the
right.
cave and such. So I'm immediately kind of poking my head outside, trying to follow that trajectory and see if I can spot anybody.
Roll me a perception check.
Gonna spend an inspiration for advantage. Nat 20.
With inspiration and the critical hit, yes, you see in the tree line 3 very strategically placed figures, 3 humans, you think, all armed with short bows, light armor. They look dirty. They don't look military, but they are drawing again and preparing to fire.
And she'll take her, sheath her rapier, and in the same movement, pull out her crossbow, aims, and fires off at one of these figures.
All right.
Short bow, rather. 13, though.
13 will miss. It'll crack into the tree, bounce off, and almost graze past his nose. But it does not hit.
And I will duck back into the cave. But I know where they are now.
You know where they are now. And as she ducks back into the cave, it's Honoria that at this point that you emerge. You're still fairly well hidden, you think.
Have I seen the arrows as well?
You would have seen the arrows. Sabrina would have seen the arrows right as you were exiting. You would have heard the sound. As a matter of fact, one of them still sticking in Rookon.
Mayat Kenda. And I will cast Mirror Image. That will be... Oh, as I'm still... If I can still sneakily start moving around, then I will.
Roll me another stealth check. And are your... as multiple forms of Honoria spread out from her body, did they also try to stay hidden?
Oh, absolutely.
Sabrina, roll me a perception check. Let's just see what happens.
17.
Okay. Yeah, you see Honoria sneak off, and then she's gone. And where are you heading? Are you moving outside of the cave along the outer wall?
I'm moving along the outer wall because my plan is on my next action is I'm going to fly up and start raining hell down on the archers once I can find them. But I don't want them to start turning their arrows to me until I'm ready. But I'm going to cast Mirror Image because you never know.
It's just what you do. Reardon, it's your turn.
Very well. We have. Can I have a brief sit rep on? We've got one dog
Absolutely.
we got one dog that's barely up. We've got a fresh dog,
if I remember correctly.
That's correct. So you have a dog that just attacked you. However, when you tore apart its companion, its mate, it, for at least the moment, has begun to back away. It's kind of on its haunches, muzzle up to you. It doesn't look pacified, but it looks a little more timid. Meanwhile, the dog that you have struck several blows into has now latched onto Rookon's leg. It's shaking his leg as he's on the ground, toppled by it. It's bleeding, but it's vicious.
Okay, yeah, he's going to I'll see if you allow this with a free action, but I'm going to go ahead and attack the one that's on Rookon. Let's see. No, I'm not going to do anything additional right now. I'm just going to go ahead and just straight attack. You're not attacking. Why aren't you attacking? 15.
That is it.
12 slashing damage to it. Is it still up?
The one that's on Rookon?
Yes.
Yeah, it that is enough. Finally, you feel Rookon, its teeth still latched onto your leg, but it's no longer jerking its head as he brings the blade over and strikes it down. It is finally...
As Rookon brings the blade down and ends the life of the other hound that's on Rookon, with that blood of that animal in conjunction with the one he just split in half, though it is beneath him, he is going to turn towards the third dog who has shown a bit of trepidation, and he is going to roar at this thing. As he brings the sword up for another attack. I'd like to intimidate, and I'm going to use an inspiration to
do it.
How's 11? Strong 11.
Firm.
It works. This creature was already pulling away from you, and at seeing you cut down another one of the hounds, you turn toward the last hounds and you roar at this beast, and he turns tail and begins to scamper off. It's not his turn yet, but he's starting to turn and run.
Riordan will allow him to quit the field, as cowards aren't allowed to be struck down. And if you will allow me a free action, he will offer a hand to Rookon. My friend?
Absolutely.
So Rookon is completely unaware of your hand as you see he's been bathed in wolf's blood, and it's covering half of his body, and it got into his mouth. And you can see his tongue lashing around covered in blood, and he tastes that copper that is contained in the blood, and everything explodes in his mind, and the blood vessels burst, and the blood rushes into his eyes, making the whites red, and he starts pounding on the ground and searching, since he dropped his scimitar, searching around, and makes a lunge for the lower half of the corpse of the wolf to grab onto.
It can't stop you.
He grabs the ankle of the lower half of the severed in twain wolf and gets up and shoves himself up, I'm assuming using half my movement, and then the direction that the arrows were coming from, he's going to headlong charge until he sees somebody that he can attack with the lower half of the wolf.
Roll me a perception check. Yeah.
As Rookon runs by, Riordan watches this whole thing, and as he takes one step past him, he follows his friend and just says, "Tally-ho."
Roll me a perception check. All right, here we go.
It's 11.
It's good enough. It's good enough. As you get close, you see a shape, a man. Maybe you can't tell. It's a silhouette standing just in front of a tree. If you want, you can charge that and blindly attack it.
Yes. So I'm assuming that a wolf ass is an improvised weapon.
Yeah. I think you've got it.
All right, but it's going to be strength based, so I'm going to use my scimitar attack to hit it.
Oh, okay. You charge forward with the haunch of the wolf, this bloody improvised weapon of yours, and at the last moment the man or whomever it is sidesteps away from you and you bounce off of the tree with the carcass. It's still gripping in your hands, and for a moment you're disoriented, and all around you is just the darkness of night. You can't quite make out anything. You lose the shape.
I lose the shape, so I wouldn't be able to use my bonus action to shield shove.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah.
So I'm going to, since I missed with the wolf ass, I'm going to shove my shield forward in an attempt to hit the negative space and knock him prone. I'll share that here in a moment. Okay.
Go for it.
I believe that's a strength. It's an athletics check.
It's athletics. Yep.
And I have advantage on that because I'm raging at this point. Sorry, it's taking so long.
That'll do it. So you, even though they were gone, even though you can't see them, even as you're spinning around trying to get a sense for where you are, you hear a branch or something, a twig snap behind you. And as you spin with your shield and push, you catch something soft, not something hard like a tree. It's something more like a man. And you feel this figure slam to the ground right at your feet.
Excellent. That is my turn, sir.
All right, and Sabrina, at this point, you've left the cave. You've stepped out to the edge of the cave. You would have watched Rookone grab this partial carcass of a hound and run off into the dark.
And Sir Reardon, presumably, with his witty riposte, running off after him.
Is Sir Reardon sticking around? Is he starting? Does he look like he's going to follow?
Yeah. He will, as soon as Minotaur with wolf ass goes by, he waits a beat, says tally ho, and follows after him.
Fools. What's the distance to the tree line?
Oh, it's only about 20 feet.
Yeah. Sabrina reaches up to the symbol, the small sun pendant that is around her neck. She utters a very brief prayer below her breath. And I'm going to use my channel divinity feature, Radiance of the Dawn. As an action, it immediately dispels any magical darkness within 30 feet, and any hostile creature in that distance that does not have total cover must make a Constitution saving throw or take 20 points of damage, half damage for a failed save. The 14 is the save here. Mm-hmm.
And let me do this hound. All right. So, describe what happens for me.
You suddenly see each of these, each creature that is, each hostile creature that is present, however many that is. For a brief moment, it's as though their entire bodies are radiating light by themselves. It's as if light within them is bursting out from them, and it is a burning light, and you can hear them scream as if they are being consumed by the fire of the sun from the inside out.
So the hound yelps first as the bright light comes out of its mouth, and it's scrambling away from Reardon, already running. And then it slips to the ground. Its face plants into the mud, and then it's still. Then you hear the screams of 3 men as light comes out of their body, illuminating the tree line. And now all of you can see these 3 half-elf bandits that stand at the tree line, and 2 of them double over, burning inside as light comes out of their ears, out of their eyes, out of their nose, and 2 of them scream until their voices are raw and they drop to the ground. The third, a slightly larger man, presses his hand up against a tree trunk, that same light coming out of him. He doesn't scream, though. Instead, he looks up at Sabrina, at Reardon, at Rook, at Averin, and turns and starts to run off into the woods.
Upon seeing the retreat, Reardon would stop, wipe out the blade or the cloth that he was using to clean absolution, turn back around, and take the hound's blood off of the length of metal.
Is there anyone who is going to give pursuit?
You'll see, Reardon will see Averin just a blur, because dashing.
If we're out of combat, I'm casting fly and I'm moving at 60 feet.
Yeah, I'll let you guys move in conjunction. You guys are both, if you're both rushing, then I'll let you both do your thing at once. One of you above and one of you below.
I actually want to get ahead and attack and try to get him to start running back towards the rest of the party, as kind of almost like a pincer maneuver and giving him nowhere to run.
All right. So Rookone, you see the man that you had just knocked to the ground start to get up and then double over as white light sprays from his mouth. He screams as light comes from his ears, his eyes, his nose, and then he goes still after his voice is raw. Stand there dazed as Averin runs off into the tree line, into the darkness, and Honoria begins to fly overhead. But I don't think Rookone sees Honoria in his current state.
Nope. Does he? And does it sink in that the man that he just knocked down, the person that he just knocked down, is dead?
You can check.
What should I check?
I don't know. How do you want to check?
I want to check with an overhand swing with the bottom half of the wolf.
And that is the safest way to make sure. Roll me an attack roll at advantage.
Okay. .24
will be a hit. You bring the wolf carcass overhead and down onto the head of this man, and from the sound that you hear and the feeling of something going soft when it was once solid, you're sure now he's dead.
So he looks up and kind of takes in the air, puffs his chest out, takes in a whole bunch of oxygen, and starts on the prowl for the next living thing.
You don't see anything. You see Averin running past you, but you don't see anything else. As a matter of fact, you see another dead man nearby. You see 3 dead hounds.
I'll follow Averin.
All right, and Sabrina, are you staying behind, or what are you doing?
As I saw the other the last remaining one turn to go, I would have yelled, Don't let him escape if you can. Honoria, you know what to do.
I'm flying incredibly fast and attempting to pincer maneuver him around, going around in front and pushing him back towards the team. So if I get the chance, I'll land in front of him and start firing up a ball of energy with my chromatic orb and go back.
Absolutely, yeah. Roll me a perception check to see if you can keep track of him as you're flying overhead and he's moving through the trees.
Would I have that advantage with the light that he had on him through the trees?
He's still got light coming out of his mouth. It's starting to get dimmer.
Nope, that is a 9.
You can only guess. You think you might be able to catch up to him and get in front of him, but for a second you lose him. And in that second, Averin catches up behind. Averin, you roll me a perception check to see if you can keep up with him.
Okay. If the running from before was a separate round, she would have dashed twice because she has an action and action, so she would have been on his ass.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let me do perception. 11.
That's enough. That's enough to keep up with him. Honoria and Averin, you get to him at the same time, and it is a pincer. You have Honoria dropping in front of him out of the air through the canopy of these skeletal, almost leafless, barely any leaf trees, and you're on his tail at the same time. And for a second, he's covering his mouth, trying to keep that light from giving himself away. He realizes he's caught between the two of you, and he reaches down and draws a pair of short swords. But I'll let you each take an action first.
Korak, Linkar, and Dingjin. I thought about talking to him for all of like 4 seconds. And I'm going to hurl a ball of fire at him. And that's going to be... I know how to roll. Hopefully. Does a 17 strike him?
It absolutely does. And what's Averin doing at the same time?
I'm pulling out the tonfa and the dagger and just carving into him.
All right, so that's 17 damage as fireball.
Fire.
You will have advantage on your attacks too, since you guys are pincering him.
Oh, excellent.
15.
It's a hit for the tonfa.
8 points damage. I'm also going to do sneak attack.
Mm-hmm.
Additional 8 points of damage. And then offhand with the dagger for 10. Hitting for 10.
You have advantage on that as well.
Okay, right.
So 25 is a hit.
20 points of damage as I just...
So right before Averin gets there, this ball of fire hits him in the chest. He sends him sprawling back right into your weapons. What do you do with those weapons? How do you end this man's life?
So as he gets pushed back by the flame that has burst upon him, Averin is already kind of not really hadn't stopped moving as this all happened. Now she pulls out her 2 weapons. Her first, the tonfa cracks at the base of the skull, and then with the dagger, just takes to the side and sinks it through his rib cage. And she only stops moving when her momentum takes him down to the ground with her.
As he slams into you, his weight, you are easily able to slide your weapons in and out to roll with the momentum, so that even as you feel the wind momentarily knocked out of you as you hit the ground, you roll him off of you, and he is laying there face down in the mud, not moving. It's at that point that Rookone breaks through the trees, and you see now Honoria and Averin and another dead man laying on the ground.
Do I see any foes, any people I haven't conversed with, any... Just those two.
You don't see any other foes. You see a dead bandit, highwayman. That's what he looks like to you.
So with the wolf carcass on the nearest, he's going to quickly charge towards Averin, but stop at the nearest tree, put his palm face against the tree, and take the wolf carcass and beat the tree with the wolf carcass until all the bones break and the flesh flays and there's nothing but an ankle in his hand. And all while doing this, he's roaring and salivating, and his eyes are pulsating. And after the wolf is gone and there's just the ankle, he starts headbutting the tree, not caring what that's doing to him.
While my companions are hopefully distracted by this display of sheer rage, I'm going to look up, seeing that there are stars in the sky, and I'm going to rapidly ascend as I'm going to try and take a look around to see if I can find light from a camp, something where this originated from.
It's at this point, once the combat stops, that Honoria and Sabrina, you see up in the night sky something that you hadn't noticed before. Honoria, you noticed that, and you know, because you must keep track of such things, that tonight should be a night where Nutari dominates the night sky, but it's Solinari that dominates the night sky, the white moon, and Nutari that is weakest in the sky. Sabrina, you see for the first time in your life Nutari, the black moon, shining overhead. You can fly up, though.
Which order of the moons? Was Solinari's the brightest?
Solinari's brightest.
Curious.
You fly upward into the sky looking for fire of a camp. Roll me a perception check.
I find that I am suddenly distracted by the sight of the moon. And as you said, I do keep track of such things. And my original thought of looking for the camp is immediately pulled away from me as I wonder, where are we? And I pull my eyes from the moon and I look to the stars for constellations, for some sort of sign of what time and where we are. What is the axis of the Earth in correlation to where we are with these moons? I don't so much care that Nutari has appeared, but
you want to know what it means.
Wicked this way comes.
So I'll allow you to give me an Arcana check, but it's going to be a very challenging Arcana check.
Can I use my inspiration?
Absolutely. You have done enough studying of constellations to know that you are in an entirely different season than you were before. You're in the late fall, and you're not in the same location you were before either. You're not entirely sure where you are, but from Palanthas, you are definitely further east.
Any legends, lore of New Atari rising again at this particular season that I would be familiar with?
No, the only thing that makes sense to you, and probably to you more than anyone else because of your studies of time and how to manipulate time, is that you are in a different time than you were before. That at least a couple of seasons have changed, and your location has changed.
Forgetting all about the bandits, I will descend back down in a slow spiral. My face is very grim.
Meanwhile, Averin, do you let Rookon do his thing? Do you intervene at all, or do you return, or do something else?
After Averin kind of looks up with this, bit of a feral smile, and then she had this whole, for a second, of thinking that Rookon was coming towards her, and seeing this, and she's morbidly curious, and also really freaked out. And so she's keeping her distance and just watching. Kind of just casually wipes the blood off of the blade onto her gauntlet. Watching.
All right. Meanwhile, back in front of the cave, Rearden, you've cleaned your blade. Sabrina, you've noticed Nutari. You can hear sounds, grunting, something happening not far off in the woods, but you're not sure what it is.
Sir Rearden, what do your eyes see in the heavens?
I see the dark moon as well.
Have you ever seen such a thing before?
I have not.
What is this place?
We shall find out and face it with honor.
And with wisdom.
So you say.
Do you continue just to wait there at the mouth of the cave?
I get a little bit more elevation. If it means going back up towards the mouth of the cave to get, another 10, 20 feet of elevation, he would do so because, as my rolls have suggested, Rearden can't see real well in this gloom. So he's going to try to get a better vantage point.
All right. Roll me a perception check.
I'm getting a little better. It's a strong 6.
It just looks like a normal night to you. You don't hear anything besides that occasional grunting. You do notice that the fire that had started to go out before is entirely gone now. No sign of the smoke in the air.
Ah, well.
He would take up his position of watch again, just inside the lip of the cave.
It's a short while later that you all come back together at the cave once Rookon has finished breaking bark from a tree with his face, and Honoria flies back down to the mouth of the cave. You all return and reconvene. You still have a few hours left before dawn. You have yet to take your long rest. You are tired. It has been a grueling day.
Rookon, gone now from his lust, stumbles, almost drunk, and yet exhausted and tired at the same time. Everything he uses to measure the world around him is upside down, and his lower eyelids and upper eyelids are striving to meet, but he won't let them. So he bats them away.
And as Averin probably done a quick check of the body before following Rook on. It's gonna. Does that happen often?
Who are you asking that to?
Rook on.
Oh.
As we're walking.
Sometimes I'm not myself. I don't particularly have control over these things, but he seems to have my best interests in mind.
Two sides to a coin.
He takes the paw of the wolf and puts it in his loincloth right next to the dragon tooth. It is good to remember.
As the others... Oh, sorry.
Even on the bad times.
As the others gather back in the cave, I approach Sir Reardon again, close enough to speak privately. Sir Reardon, we have shown ourselves to be mighty together, but if we do not rest and heal, I fear that we may not be so fortunate should we be attacked again. What do you think we should do? I'm reluctant to stay. We've obviously attracted attention, but I'm not sure where else we would go.
Well, if these are brigands, and they do not report back, it would be unbrigand-like for reinforcements to be sent. I would say that, provided we keep an ample watch knowing their tactics, and as the bodies of their friends lie where they fell, I think a deterrent has been established better than any fence. Should we wish to continue our rest, give me but another, an hour, and I shall hold watch for the rest of the evening.
You will have it, sir. You clearly need it.
So this up-close fighting, it takes it out of you a bit.
Is there anyone who's... Oh, sorry.
It certainly took it out of that hound.
As you say.
Is there anyone who is staying awake through the night, or is everyone attempting to return to sleep?
I will attempt to sleep almost immediately, having been quiet since I've come back from the skies.
Sir Reardon will rest 1 hour.
And Sabrina as well.
1 hour for me, and then I wake up and begin my studying anew.
Averin and Rookon.
Rookon holds himself up against the wall of the cave, finds a corner, a cold, wet corner in the cave, and collapses. And then his massive torso just expanding and retracting, seemingly exhausted. The only blanket he gives himself is his round shield as he curls himself into a ball and eyes on the corner of the cave of the rock. drifts into slumber for as long as his body will let him.
And Averin just, again, kind of gets to a place where she feels comfortably, as if she could sense whatever's going on, and pull the hood back. Again, sitting up for sleeping.
You are not troubled or disturbed for the rest of your hour. For some of you, a few extra hours. I think Averin and Rookone take a little longer to stir than the other three of you. But it's 3 hours and dawn comes. You all are up. Is anyone immediately out to watch the mouth of the cave once the light breaks?
Sabrina would want to see the light break if she could, for that sacred moment.
You're able to get up before so, and you are able to witness it.
Did Sir Reardon get his 4 hours?
Oh, yes. Everyone has had a long rest now. Congratulations. That is, I think, the first long rest of our game.
I would be outside as well.
As the moment of the sunrise passes, do I notice anything unusual about the sunrise, by the way, related to season or time?
You would know now, as the sun is rising and you can see more of the forest, that this is a place that is affected by the normal change of seasons, and that you are in the autumn, you would guess, or maybe even early winter. Definitely not when the same season you expected it to be. So maybe you're in a place that has a different season at the same time as Istar. But the sun rises like it always does. There's no difference that you can notice. It looks like the sun. The strangest thing that you've seen about this location is definitely that Nutari was visible.
As after the sunrise, I re-enter the cave and kneel down next to the pit where the fire was. I gather some of the remaining wood and using burning hands as controlled a way as I can, rekindle the fire. You see Sabrina remove from her things a small sort of a brass pot with a handle. She adds some water and another substance that you perhaps, if you're not watching closely, you're not noticing, but she settles it down into the coals of the fire. And as it warms, if you're familiar with coffee, you would smell the scent of warm coffee.
And Noria's eyes would be locked on you, not only for the magic, but the smell of coffee, because damn, wizards love them coffee.
As it begins to boil in the pot, sort of this small bronze pot nestled in the fire, she pulls out 6 small bronze or brass cups, and pours a bit in each one of them. And you see her kneel and bow, look up and bow. She's uttering prayers. And as she finishes this, what is obviously a ritual of morning worship of her god, would any of you care to partake with me?
Do I think she's cast magic on the coffee itself? Or that the coffee is anything other than just coffee?
Roll me an Arcana check. I don't know, has she?
She has not.
Okay.
Just a strong pot of coffee.
I would be delighted. I take the cup, feeling the warmth of it in my hands.
As I hand the cup to you, I say, "May the light of Sirion be with you this day, my child." And I would do the same for any other who would come to take one.
I'm taking anybody's that doesn't take theirs. Just saying.
Does
Who here drinks coffee?
does the strength of the odor wake me up from my deep slumber?
Absolutely, yeah. By the time dawn hits, you're already stirring.
Okay. And I roll around and I see the cup being given, and inquisitively I look. What is that? Is that wine?
No, not wine at all. It's a warm beverage. It's called coffee. This is it's a sacrament. It's a blessing of my god Sirion. Your people, I believe, know Sirion as Sinar, and also as a goddess, if I recall correctly.
The things that my people know are not the things that I choose to acknowledge now. But I am a person of trade. If you would like, I will trade you this wolf's foot for that coffee, as you call it.
It is more than a fair trade, Rookon. And I, with one hand, take the foot, and with the other, hand you the cup.
And he takes the cup, and he immediately feels the warmth in his hands. And in so long, he has not felt something so nice. And his eyebrows soften. And he takes the cup to his mouth, and he drinks it, and the warmth, you can see, has a physical effect on his body, like the tenseness that was there loosens up. And he sips it, and he enjoys it, and you can tell. And he exhales, and he calms, and he sits down on the rocks and hovers over the mug and just begins to sip and enjoy softly as you would a scotch.
Mm-hmm. What about Averin and Sir Reardon? Did they partake in the coffee sacrament?
I would respectfully decline.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
I have some unsettling news to share with all of you, she says, after studying and snapping her spellbook shut. But before that, I might ask a question. When were you all born? It's imperative that you tell the truth. Perhaps not the exact day if you wish to hide that, but the year. The age, then.
What a strange question, Honoria. I was born 28 years ago, just north of the great city of Istar.
I'm afraid that the flow of time is not as you know it. 28 years ago, maybe 500 years ago for me. It is imperative that you answer to the best of your knowledge, or I may not be able to bring us home.
I was myself born on the island of Kothas, in the vast blood sea. It was created after the cataclysm.
Istar is gone. Buried beneath a mountain.
I'm watching the reaction on everyone's faces as this news is going around.
Wait a minute. Istar was gone. How are you possibly from Istar?
How do you know this, Sir Knight?
How do you not know this?
Honoria's smile wickedly spreads across her face as she feels she's put together something the rest of the party has not. And now you see. How many moons do you see in the sky?
3.
What was the last season you remember?
Why do you ask these questions, wizard? You saw us in the city before we came to this place. If you need to ask someone specifically, ask our leader. She appears to be confused.
No, it is imperative that I get as much information from all of you as possible, and I have gathered what I need. We are not in the time that we were. We are not in the time that we are. We are somewhere else. It is fall now. It was not autumn when I recall. And the moon's showing 3 to all of you, especially you, Sir Knight, is not something that should be taken lightly.
Thank you.
It was the height of summer when the black wave took me, us, Averin, yes?
Yeah.
We are now far east of Palanthus.
Where are we?
Palanthus. What is this?
It will be very difficult for you to adapt, dear leader, to this new time. But I will attempt to educate you the best I can while we maneuver around. How many of you have heard of the Lake of Sounds? Curious.
Is
So I
it
think
near?
that any of them are holding back information and are just keeping their mouths perhaps a little too tightly closed, their eyes a glimmer of recognition from anyone as I'm staring intently at everyone's faces.
Roll me an insight check.
I would like to use my inspiration. I have one left.
You don't think that you see a glimmer of recognition, not when you say the Lake of Sounds. There's a lot of confusion right now as you're piecing together what you think might be going on, who and where you are from. But that seems to be void of any recognition, at least you think so. Right now, the sun is now bright in the sky. It's still early morning, but it does light up the entirety of the surrounding countryside beyond the cave. You can see the colors, the autumn colors of the leaves, mostly fallen, turning brown.
This is clearly not my time or place, but it is not yours either.
I will now consider us all removed from time for the time being. I need to do more research.
Averin, roll me a perception check.
Why from different ages? Why this place?
Or
As you've kind of made it your point to stay back up against the wall, kind of slightly removed from everyone else, for a moment, you glimpse through the opening of the cave passively. And then as you look out in the forest from your angle, you can see something you hadn't seen before in the nighttime. there are two roads, man-made roads with openings in the canopy, not far away. In fact, they connect in what looks like some sort of crossroads. You expect one of the roads looks a little older. It's hard to see from here. One of them definitely looks fairly well maintained.
Wherever we are, people pass through here. A couple of roads out there.
All roads lead somewhere.
Yes, that's generally what roads do.
I should like to find civilization, but I think in order of this, we should keep this information to ourselves.
But in terms of who should do the talking, we need to find out where we are.
I look at the knight. I look to Averin. Priestess, though you are our leader, indisputably, I believe that when it comes to public relations, that our knight would be best served going forward.
I don't like to be one to disagree with the party, but I don't know what age we're in, but if we are in our own, you would know that the knights are not well favored.
But you are looked upon the same, no matter what time you are in.
Oh no, I will not hide my armor for the proverbial king or country. If you wish me to speak, I will. If you wish me to defend our honor, I will. It just may be met with different reactions.
Yours is a more predictable outcome.
As you say.
Unless you think that Rook should do the talking.
I'm pretty good at talking.
He
from
is.
my experiences.
I am not well received, even less so than knights.
I apologize.
For the favor of the party, Sabrina assumes authority instinctively. While I do not like that trait, I feel like it would be best suited.
As you will.
People fear what they do not understand. Someone with the head of a bull and the body of a man is something that they would shy away from.
They are fools, then. But I would say, for the same reason that I condemn myself for being a public speaker on our behalf, our fearless leader, if her age is to be believed and ours is to be accepted, she may represent a god that people do not care for after the cataclysm. It might be a difficult transition for you.
That's when I start nodding very affirmatively with the knight.
It's proving to be a difficult transition for all of us, I think. We'll stay together. We'll face each situation as it comes. I'm not fearless, but I have a purpose. And I have a mission that must be served.
What is that?
Perhaps later, my dear. For now, I propose that we make our way to the road, see what we find. I'm sure that the light will guide us.
So you say.
I'll begin packing up at that point, having said my piece.
So, as the night before, you shared crackers and bricks of mystery meat over cold fire. This morning, you shared hot cups of coffee, those of you who partook, a blessing, a sacrament for the god Syrian, and together you pack up and you set off towards, are you heading towards one of the roads? Are you heading towards where they meet? Are you heading in the opposite directions of the roads?
We'll head toward the crossroads to see what we see.
It doesn't take you long. You make it about a mile, maybe 2 miles, through thick woodlands that become thinner as you pass by, and you don't see any signs, anything strange. You see a normal, from what you can tell, forest. And then you do reach the crossroads. You find it through a small clearing of lighter forest, and before you, the road stretching north to south seems fairly well maintained. Maybe not that well maintained. It is littered by branches and fallen thistle, but it's a true road. At the center of that crossroads, heading east to west, is a muddier road, a less traveled road. And to the west, it stretches back in the direction you came from, deeper into thicker woods. To the east, you can see now from the opening in the clearing that off in the distance, there are tall teeth, mountaintops, snow-capped, somewhere over the tree line, many miles away, but you can see them. At the center of the crossroads, a circle of stone, cracked, old, with a dead but thick oak tree that breaks through the center of the stone to mark the crossroad. 3 naked men hang from the branches of that tree, some 10 feet into the air. They are swaying gently in a breeze that whips through the woods here. And you can see that there are several crude signs that have been nailed to the trunk of the tree.
Do I notice if the hanged men are bound, like ankles and wrists?
Their wrists are tied, their ankles are tied, they are hanging from their necks.
Are they casters?
Spellcasters? No.
What do the signs say?
The signs on the tree, or are you investigating the men themselves?
The signs on the tree first and then the men.
The signs on the tree seem to be direction-based. You have a sign that says north to Kalaman, east to Ironvale, south to Har Thalen, and west to Malmene. You, however, as you look up to the men themselves, the naked men, can see that there are signs painted onto their chests as well, written in a common tongue, one that you all understand. And Nora, you being right underneath them, can see this first. One of the hanging men, his chest is marked with the word thief. The second hanging man, his chest is marked with the word lecher. And the
With
third
what?
hanging man, lecher. The third hanging man, his chest is marked with the word heretic.
No man deserves to die in bonds.
I look concerned to Reardon.
Perhaps you're right. Perhaps I should be the one to talk.
Wherever we go, keep our heads down.
It's going to be difficult. I don't have a hood.
Reardon, roll me a history check. Anyone else who, if you're proficient in history?
14.
Nat 1.
15.
Sabrina and Reardon, you both have a kind of an idea of where you are through your study of geography. You recognize two of these names on the sign. You recognize Kalaman being a jewel of Eastern Solamnia in both of your ages. It's a city that stood the test of time, one of the few that survived and even thrived after the cataclysm. It is on the Kalaman Bay, and you recognize Iron Vale. It takes you a minute to think of it, but then you remember that there's a legend of Iron Vale weapons, arms forged from the mines of Iron Vale that seem to be blessed. But there's also other rumors that say that those who use those weapons are cursed, that their weapons break when they need them the most. This is a story that's told in both of your ages. And it's Harthalin and Malmene that neither one of you recognize. In fact, both of you are certain that they must be tiny establishments, because you would have recognized them on a map. The only point that you believe you could be in, where Kalaman would be to the north and Iron Vale would be to the south, is in a small nation called Nightlund. And while that doesn't mean much to Sabrina in her time, in Sir Reardon's time, he would know that that is where Lord Soth's castle, Dargard Keep, stands.
I know where we are.
Where are we?
A pretender rules here.
Are we in the present?
It doesn't matter. If it is who I believe, he has always been a coward.
Speak on.
He was a knight, or presumed to be one. A sir who became a lord. Lauren Soth.
Roll me a charisma check, Greg.
Saving
Charisma
throw
save.
or check?
Saving throw.
Do I get advantage because of my mama?
Not on this one.
Ooh, what was that?
18.
You feel your throat begin to constrict as you say Lord Soth's name. It doesn't feel natural.
Does it take my wind?
No, you're able to continue to talk. It takes a little effort, but you feel as though there's another presence here that you didn't feel before.
He pulls absolution free beneath the hangman's tree. Turns. This is a pretender's realm. I would expect attacks from the shadows and the veil.
You hear the cracking of stone and the sliding of breaking mud, and all of you see this as the roadside all around you, the ground outside of the road, just off the beaten path, Thorny vines begin to shoot up, breaking through the mud that had just trapped them moments before. And those vines stretch upward to Rook Owen's height, and then taller to the top of the canopies of the trees themselves.
Gather up.
Slowly,
Magic is this.
buds begin to sprout flowers along the vines. Roses, white, red, and black roses. And they are large and they seem to grow supernaturally, blooming too quickly. It doesn't make sense.
What sorcery is this?
Drawn my weapons.
You draw your weapons, you summon your armor, and you watch as the red and white flowers continue to grow and then wilt, and then the white and red flowers die. Their petals turn brown and fall from the hanging vines and float to the forest floor. And as they do, you all feel something electric in the ground and your feet moving up into your bodies. You feel compelled. This is a compelling that you understand and are able to try to fight, but you feel compelled, all of you, to open your mouths, to lift your eyes, to stare at these vines, and to sing the tale of your worst deed, to admit aloud the thing in your life that weighs heaviest on your hearts. Everyone, please make me a charisma saving throw.
I'm using my last advantage.
I'm using advantage as well.
I will also use an inspiration for advantage.
I will ask again. Do I get my...
On this one, you have advantage already, Sir Reardon.
16.
19.
Rookon rolls a 14.
Wow.
We cut away from this scene into a ghastly, dark castle. Alone in the throne room sits a man wearing plate mail, armor, and a great helm, shrouded in the room's heavy gloom. He shifts atop an iron throne and stares down at an object that he holds in his two gauntleted hands. It's a small orb. It doesn't give off any light, but it shows a moving image. The image of tall vines of black roses blooming before a crossroads in a hangman's tree. He turns the orb in his hand slightly, and as he does so, the image shifts. He looks down and stares at the moving picture of the party. Averin, entranced, as she begins to sing a guilty dirge. And that is where we will end our story for tonight.
Fuck. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody!
Fuck.
So this is the time, I think, where we'll go around. We'll have Greg go around and start us off. Everybody say hello, how you did tonight, how you're feeling, and where we can find you.
Okay, I'm so happy. This campaign makes me so unbelievably happy. There is an 8-year-old boy inside this fur and chainmail, and ladies and gentlemen, pardon my French, but he is fucking stoked, man. He is. Every Wednesday I am having a blast. Billy, my man, what did you think tonight, buddy?
Man, dude, the imagery from everyone as we first got to like breathe in each other's characters for the first time. Like, I'm not trying to, like, you know, push it further than it should be pushed, but like a lot of the parties that I see are instantly trying to get along instantly. This is the first one where it's felt like a natural, abhorrent gathering of 5 completely different individuals. Fucking blows my mind. Like, this is the coolest thing that I've ever fucking done. Like, I've done theater for a fucking decade. I've been nominated for shit, and like, I want to. This is where I want to live. I want to live here. I want to live here with these people and with this chat, and be immersed in this shit for as long as I possibly can. So I'm gonna start playing the lottery so I can quit my job and just do this. Holy shit. God damn it. This is thank you for this privilege to play with y'all and to be able to play for chat and be influenced by chat and to fucking party with chat. This is so cool. If you guys want to follow me, I'm at Bill of the Forest on Twitter. That's pretty much it. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this for y'all. This is one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. Thank you.
Awesome, brother. I feel the exact same way. As we go over to our fearless leader, Allison, how are you doing? And how did you enjoy this session?
This is magical. It is purely magical. It is such a joy, a true joy to play off of each one of you. You're masters. You are each masters at this craft, and I'm in awe. And Dawn, that goes doubly for you. I just feel like I'm there. I feel like I am there in the middle of it. I love the way these relationships are unfolding. I am going to treasure for a long time the looks on each one of your faces when I just stepped up and said, okay, so I'm in charge now. Here's what we're going to do. It was my Thanksgiving gift. So thank you all for that. Chat, you're amazing. Your support means so much. You inspire me as well. I cannot wait for next week. You can find me between now and then on Twitter at Allison Robinson with 2 L's and a Y. You can catch me on the channel here on Sunday nights for Pulp Cthulhu Project Athena, which is also my favorite thing in the world. And 2 last things. 1, happy Thanksgiving to all of you who are celebrating. I am so grateful for each one of you. And secondly, those of you that, some of you may be aware that yesterday was International Transgender Day of Remembrance, when transgender people who have been killed in hate crimes over the last year are remembered with honor. Dozens and dozens of people like me who have lost their lives to hate crimes in the last year. So I wanted to name that and acknowledge it as well, acknowledge them, and acknowledge, Greg, you for creating a place where everyone can feel welcome, where everyone can feel as though they belong. I know, but it's no small thing. It is no small thing. The world needs more spaces like this, and I'm really grateful to get to be a part of it. I love you all.
I love you, my friend. Again, as with Billy, everything you say I agree with. Again, this is where I will say, even though we haven't gone through everybody, their links are in chat. Follow them. Fill your world with happiness and kindness. It is nice. And speaking of someone whose character is everything that nice defines, Tia, how are you, my friend, and how did you enjoy this session?
It was amazing seeing everybody's individual characters once again. And Allison, actually, I was gonna say I'm torn between like 2 favorite moments of the night. One is the beating of the improvised wolf-ass weapon will forever
Oh my God.
forever be in my memory, because I can see that it goes with the expression, when you're so angry, you pick up a motherfucker to beat them with another motherfucker. So I was able to see that really well. But I had kind of had a bit of a moment, because I was like, damn, here comes the tension. Who's going to be the leader? And you're like, it's me. And I'm like, oh, fuck, thank God. I do not have to. Yeah, sure, absolutely, mistress. You can be the leader. Have fun with that. All responsibility falls on you. Great. I don't want any of that. When I was a kid and I would read Dragonlance day in and day out, I remember in my social studies class, my teacher would actually just ignore me reading books. I would sit there, even in the front of the class, just reading Dragonlance, and other kids would get mad at me, and they're like, why doesn't she have to do the work? And the teacher would be like, well, because her grades are fine, she can do whatever she wants. I would sit there and I would read Dragonlance on my way to school, at school, after school, and I would begin to have these dreams of being in Dragonlance. I would see the moons, I would see Raceland, and I've recently started reading on that level again with Dragonlance, because my character has proficiency in history, and the dreams have started coming back. And that is just, it's insane. I have been preaching up and down to anyone that will listen that this campaign is something else. It doesn't feel like a Twitch production. Not that there's anything wrong with Twitch productions, because damn, there's some damn fine producers out there, and as a streamer, I appreciate that. But there's something where I type in chat when I can, but honestly, I forget that you guys are there sometimes, because it's just like Raccoon said, I'm so fucking here. I'm here until someone goes, oh shit, it's time to wrap up, like an hour after we usually do. I am going to be reaching out to some friends over at Death Saves. They have a competition going on right now. Death Saves, they have a Lord Soth t-shirt. I am an avid collector of all of their stuff. I love Death Saves. They have a very special ring that is going on sale, and normally, or not on sale, in this competition. And normally I would spend time plugging myself and whatnot, but what I am going to say is, if you are a fan of myself, if you understand the love that I have in my heart for Dragonlance to be as true and pure as I assure you it is, when I put forward this piece, this 9-panel storyboard, which will be another love letter to TSR, to Dragonlance, to Wizards of the Coast, and to Death Saves themselves, that you pop a like on it. It will be on Instagram. If you don't have an Instagram account, please make one, and just do everything that you can. I don't even really care so much about winning the beautiful ring. I just want, it will almost be as though Lord Soth chooses me himself if I win this competition, you know? Like, it's just that I feel it in my heart. So thank you. Yes, tonight was awesome. Is it Wednesday?
That's the most Honoria thing you've ever said. I don't want the ring. I just, between the lines, I just want to win. I don't want the reward. Oh, I want the power. Love it. Love it. And speaking of somebody who noped the fuck out of anything that Reardon tried to do to be nice, Kiana, how are you doing, my friend? And how did you like the session?
It's so good. I love this game so much. I love this crew so much. I love the audience so much. I love this game. Just nah. It's really fun playing a character who just doesn't want to trust anybody. Normally I play the really like friendly mom kind of like, you know, yeah, let's band together, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be over here. You can be a weird fucking knight. I'm just cool. So she's great, and I love the relationship that are kind of starting to grow. And the fact that the most secretive character is now gonna spill her backstory to the entire fucking group. I have a week to figure out what she's going to say. That's gonna be fun. I'll just casually be over here writing a song about everything terrible I've done, which is a lot. But no, I'm super excited, and I can't wait for next week. But Yeah, you guys, Twitter at KennaS. Best way to figure out what I'm doing because I'm all over the internet playing games almost every day of the week. What I will plug is that on Friday, I have 2 awesome games. One, I am running Teenagers from Outer Space for an all-star cast over on Laugh Love Lindy. Greg will be there alongside Emma from WebDM and Travis from WebDM. It's super fun stuff. And Friday, it's also the finale, or season finale of my Lady Blackbird campaign, Adventures in the Wild Blue. I have feels everyone's gonna cry. I am GMing for 8 players at once. So wish me luck. It's gonna be wild as everything converges into one epic clash. But yes, I can't wait for next week.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. Dawn, I'm going to drop it back over to you, my friend, and I'll save whatever 10 seconds I want to say something for the end. But how are you doing, buddy? Fantastic job. Seems too slight. How about you did a Margaret job tonight? I was transported.
Well, thank you. I feel like you guys really did the legwork, and I kind of got to sit back and watch you, and that was a joy for me to see characters interact and to sort of learn what you would usually get in a first episode or a first session. Where there's a bargaining. There's always this bargaining of like, okay, well, who's going to do this and who's going to do that, and how do our characters feel about each other? But usually in a first session, you really don't necessarily have a lot of information to make those decisions based off of, and you guys did. And I feel like you made some very complicated, compelling, interesting, surprising choices tonight that I really, really enjoyed watching. And so it's hard for me to let you go through an entire session without trying to kill you at least once. But still, I love you guys. I loved what you brought today to the story, to your characters. I loved the coffee scene the morning after. And I'm really looking forward to now as we start to move into a bigger world, and that world gets bigger and your characters get bigger with it. I'm just excited about that. Happy Thanksgiving. I said this at the beginning, but I absolutely mean it. It is an absolute joy, a pleasure, an honor. I love playing with you guys. I'm very, very thankful for this story that we're telling and for getting to know you and be friends with you beyond this story, for knowing that you're just all good people, and that's important to me. I think it should be important to everybody, and I'm very thankful for that. So I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, however you celebrate, and if you don't celebrate, I just hope you have an awesome day regardless. I think a lot of you all, and I need you all to make me charisma saving throws.
Strong 7.
Nat 20?
That's a good time for that.
Yeah.
So I'll say we have the results of a couple of polls in tonight, and here's how they'll kind of affect these corruption saving throws. Sir Reardon has won The Light Still Shines yet again, and that will protect him tonight as he fails his corruption saving throw. Sir Reardon remains untainted. Allison, Sabrina won our Fight Corruption subscriber poll, which means that you get to roll 1d8. And since Sabrina is at 0 corruption currently.
No, I have 3. I do have 3 corruption.
Perfect. All right, go ahead and roll me 1d8 then.
7.
So the audience has voted for Sabrina to lose some of the corruption she's acquired. She has reduced back down to 0, and she too remains, relatively pure.
Syrian's light purifies and makes righteous.
Kiana, you scored a natural 20, I want to say this because this hasn't happened yet. If you had become corrupted, if your alignment had shifted, if you score a natural 20, you get the choice as a player to return to your previous alignment by 1 slide, either towards, good or towards lawful. But you haven't changed yet, so there's no change for you. So with saying that, Tia, if you want Honoria to recover from her corruption, you can.
Fuck no. I'm not losing that level. Do I lose the level too?
You lose the level, yeah.
Fuck no. Absolutely not.
All right. I thought that was going to be how it goes, but Rook-own. What level of corruption is Rook-own at currently?
Rook-own is at 6 because I won last week.
With Solinari peak in the sky, the most dominant moon, you will not have to roll 1d8. Instead, this time of the month, your character will roll 1d4. So roll me 1d4 right now. You gain 2 corruption, and you creep a little bit closer to the edge after losing yourself twice in one night to your rage. And Rook-own is right on that edge now. That is how corruption goes. Nobody entirely slides. Sir Reardon remains pure. Sabrina remains pure. And Averin remains true neutral, noping out of most situations. And guys, I can't wait for next week. Greg, I'm going to give it back to you guys. Thank you so much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much for the end of the session donations coming in. They will come into play next week, I am sure. We will get those over to... technically, with the last one, we got to the other... You want to say that for the top of the next... We hit 100. So
yeah,
we can
let's go ahead and save it for the top, and we'll just do 2 corruption. We'll do 2 Eye of Dutari polls next week.
Oh yes.
So somebody, a little bit of bad luck and real bad.
Awesome. Well, I would like to thank this whole crew. I'd like to thank chat so much once again for your passion and your sticking around with us and listening to the story. The one that Dawn is weaving is magical, to say the least. Specifically for me, Greg the player, I've already stated my love for this campaign, my love for this character in particular. I appreciate you so much understanding that this character is going to have a time being lawful good in this area. And as long as I can keep him that way, I appreciate you all so much seeing that vision from tip to tail. It means a ton to me. I love Sir Reardon. I've never loved a character this quickly. It's the best. And the crew that I'm surrounded with, player and character wise, is phenomenal. Couldn't ask for a better DM. I don't think there's been a better DM. So, with that being said, everybody, have a happy Thanksgiving, or as Dawn said, just a really kick-ass Thursday. And we will see you here next Wednesday as we delve deeper into this dark world. And stick around. Round 2 of Sauce coming. And guess what, everybody? I'm kicking his ass next time. Let's see it. See you next week, everyone.
You'll be